Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtadusha Tashishiman Hizavangashil A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajak Acharya Ashtadusha Tashishiman Hizavangashil Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 8, text number 17. Yugani Yuga Manam Cha Dharmo Yash Cha Yuge Yuge Avataranucharitam Yad Ascharyatamam Harehe Yugani Yuga Manam Cha Dharmo Yascha Yuge Yuge Avataranucharitam Yad Ascharyatamam Harehe Yugani Yuga Madam Cha Dharmo Yascha Yuge Yuge Avataranucharitam Yad Ascharyatamam Harehe Yugani Yugas Manam Cha Dharmo yascha yuge yuge avataranu charitam yad ascharyatamam harehe. Please repeat. Adijis, would you like to chant? Okay. Yugani, the different ages. Yugamanam, the duration of each age. Cha, as well as. Dharmaha, the particular occupational duty. Yacha, and which. Yuge yuge, in each and every yuga, or particular age. Avatara, the incarnation. Anucharitam, and the activities of the incarnation. Yat, which. Ascharyatamam, the most wonderful activities. Harehe, of the Supreme Lord. Translation: please explain all the different ages in the duration of the creation, and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Purport: Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, although non-different from him, are emanations from the Supreme. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the great and learned sage Shukadev Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations, so that the incarnation of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnation of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literature and confirmed by an acharya like Shukadev Goswami. The Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. The specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should know that the activities of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly. And association with the Lord directly means purification from material contamination. We have already discussed this point in the previous volume. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakya Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutali Swayamurpakata Mayam Dadati Swapadandikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragadantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanasetam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vashakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karunasindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Kopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gora Andigi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishtabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hare Pre Vanchakap Tu Vishta Kripasan Nubivacha Prita Nam Bhavani Bio Vaishnavibio Namo Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Putalesh Matibhakti Kasaswamin Itinamane Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Putalesh Matibhakti Vedanta Swamin Itinamane Namaste Sarasvati Devi Gauravani Prasharne Nirvishesha Shunavadi Paschatya Dishtarne Buddhir Mahadvirin Mafpur Bivor Nirmaya Shitya Admushu Purasha Bhungte Gunan Shodashatmaka Sonankashishta Bhagavan Vashamsi Me. So to begin with, I'll speak a little of what I know or found about Radhakund, as today is the appearance of Radhakund. So you can pull up whoever's controlling this in the Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 36, text number 16. And then you can come down to the paragraph in the purport where it says, from the Puranas, and I'll read from there. I'll skip all of the Sanskrit because it's quite a few verses. So, from the Puranas, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has quoted 20 verses describing a joking conversation between Radha and Krishna that took place after Krishna had killed the demon Arishta. This conversation, so kindly quoted by the Acharya, describes the origin of Radhakund and Shyamakund, Radha's and Krishna's bathing ponds. The verses are as follows. I'll just go to the English. The innocent young gopi said, "Ah, Krishna, don't touch us now, O killer of the bull. Alas, even though Arishta was a terrible demon, still he was a male cow. So you would have to undergo atonement, just as Lord Indra did after killing Vritrasura. But how can you purify yourself without going to the trouble of visiting every single holy place in the three worlds?" Krishna replied, "Why should I have to wander throughout the entire universe? I will at once bring all the countless pilgrimage places here and take my bath in them. Just watch." With this, Lord Mukunda struck his heel on the ground. Then he said, "This is the water of the Bhogavati river, coming from the Patala region. And now, O holy places, all of you please come here." When the Supreme Lord had spoken these words, all the holy places went there and appeared before him. Krishna then addressed the gopis as follows. "See all the holy places." But the gopis replied, "We don't see them as you describe." Then those best of holy places, joining their palms in supplication, spoke up. "I am the salt ocean. I am the ocean of milk. I am the Amara Dirghika. I am the river Shona. I am the Sindhu. I am the Tamra Parni. I am the holy place Pushkara. I am the river Sarasvati. And we are the Godavari, Yamuna, and Reva rivers, and the confluence of the rivers at Prayag. Just see our waters." After purifying himself by taking bath, Lord Hari became quite arrogant and said, "I have produced a pond containing all the various holy places. Whereas you gopis must never have executed any religious duties on this earth for the pleasure of Lord Brahma." Then Srimati Radharani addressed her girlfriends as follows. "I must create an even more beautiful pond, so go to work." Having heard these words, the gopis saw that Arishtasura's hooves had dug a shallow ditch just west of Sri Krishna's pond. At that nearby spot, all the gopis began digging up lumps of soft mud with their hands, and in this way a divine pond manifested in the short span of an hour. Krishna was astonished to see the lake they produced. He said, "Go ahead, O lotus-eyed one. You and your companions should fill this pond with water from mine." But Radha replied, "No, no, no, no. This is impossible, since the water of your pond is contaminated by your terrible sin of killing a cow. I will have my countless gopi companions bring the pure water of the Manasa Ganga here in billions of pots. In this way, I will fill this lake with my own water, and thus make its renown unequaled in the entire world. Lord Krishna then gestured to a heavenly personality who is an intimate associate of all the holy places. Suddenly, that person rose up out of Krishna's pond and bowed down to the daughter of Sri Vrishabhanu, Radharani. Then, with palms joined and tears pouring from his eyes, he began to pray to her in devotion. O goddess, even Lord Brahma himself, the knower of all scriptures, cannot understand your glories, nor can Lord Shiva or Lakshmi. Only Krishna, the supreme goal of all human endeavor, can understand them, and he thus feels obliged to personally make sure that you can wash away your perspiration when you are fatigued. He is always anointing your lotus feet with nectarian charu and yavaka and decorating them with ankle bells. And he rejoices and feels most fortunate simply by satisfying the tips of the toes of your lotus feet. On his order, we have immediately come here to live in this most excellent pond, which he created by one stroke of his heel. But only if you now feel satisfied with us and bestow upon us your merciful glance will the tree of our desire bear fruit. Hearing this prayer spoken by the representative of the full assembly of holy places, Sri Radha was pleased and said, "So, kindly tell me your desire." Then they told her plainly, "Our lives would be successful if we could come to your pond. That is the benediction we desire." Glancing at her beloved from the corners of her eyes, the daughter of Vrishabhanu replied with a smile, "Please come." Her gopi companions all agreed with her decision and became immersed in the ocean of happiness. Indeed, the beauty of all creatures, both mobile and stationary, was enhanced. Thus, gaining the grace of Srimati Radharani, the holy rivers and lakes in Sri Krishna Kund forcibly broke through its boundary walls and swiftly filled Radha Kund with their waters. Lord Hari then said, "My dear Radha, may this pond of yours become even more world-renowned than mine. I will always come here to bathe and to enjoy my water pastimes. Indeed, this lake is as dear to me as you are." Radha replied, "I will come to bathe in your pond as well, even though you may kill hundreds of Arishta demons here. In the future, anyone who has intense devotion for this lake, which is on the spot where you chastised Arishtasura, and who bathes or resides here, is sure to become very dear to me." That night, Lord Krishna initiated a rasa dance at Radha Kund, generating a torment of the greatest mood of splendorous pleasure. Sri Krishna resembled a cloud, and Srimati Radharani a brilliant flash of lightning, filling the sky with abundant beauty. In this way, their divine glories permeated the expanses of the three worlds. So, that's the narration of the appearance of Radha Kund. In due course of time, Radha Kund became lost or covered over more or less, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he rediscovered it. So you can pull up Chaitanya Charitamrita, I believe this is Madhya Lila, chapter 18, and you can just go to the index of it. Yeah. So you can skip down to verse number 4. So this is Lord Chaitanya's rediscovery of Radha Kund. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked the local people, "Where is Radha Kund?" No one could inform him, and the Brahmana accompanying him did not know either. The Lord then understood that the holy place called Radha Kund was no longer visible. However, being the omniscient Supreme Personality of Godhead, he discovered Radha Kund and Shama Kund in 2 paddy fields. There was only a little water, but he took bath there. When the people of the village saw Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking his bath in those ponds, in the middle of the paddy fields, they were very much astonished. The Lord then offered his prayers to Sri Radha Kund. Of all the gopis, Radharani is the dearmost. Similarly, the lake known as Radha Kund is very dear to the Lord because it is very dear to Srimati Radharani. This is actually a verse from the Padma Purana. This next one. Just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Krishna, so her lake known as Radha Kund is also very dear to him. Of all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most beloved. In that lake, Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani used to sport daily in the water and have a rasa dance on the bank. Indeed, Lord Krishna gives ecstatic love like that of Srimati Radharani to whoever bathes in that lake even once in his life. The attraction of Radha Kund is as sweet as that of Srimati Radharani. Similarly, the glories of the Kunda lake are as great as Srimati Radharani's. Because of its wonderful transcendental qualities, Radha Kund is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani. In that lake, the all-opulent Lord Krishna performed his pastimes with Srimati Radharani with great pleasure and transcendental bliss. Whoever bathes just once in Radha-kund attains Srimati Radharani's loving attraction for Sri Krishna. Who within this world can describe the glories and sweetness of Sri Radha-kund? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus offered prayers to Radha-kund. Overwhelmed by ecstatic love, he danced on the bank, remembering the pastimes of Lord Krishna, Lord Krishna performed on the bank of Radha-kund. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then marked his body with tilak made from the mud of Radha-kund, and with the help of Balabhadra Bhattacharya, he collected some mud and took it with him. And then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued his tour of Vrindavan like that. So there's one more thing I'll read. So Lord Chaitanya, he rediscovered Radha-kund, and he had the Goswamis, the 6 Goswamis, excavate it and renovate it, as well as various other holy places. So this is just one purport. I'll just read directly myself. Translation: in the accordance with the directives of the revealed scriptures, both Goswamis excavated the lost places of pilgrimage and inaugurated the worship of the deities in Vrindavan. Purport by Srila Prabhupada: the spot where we now find Sri Radha-kund was an agricultural field during the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. A small reservoir of water was there, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in that water and pointed out that originally Radha-kund existed in that location. Following his directions, Srila Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami renovated Radha-kund. This is one of the brilliant examples of how the Goswamis excavated lost places of pilgrimage. Similarly, it is through the endeavor of the Goswamis that all the important temples in Vrindavan were established. Originally, there were 7 important Gaudiya Vaishnava temples established in Vrindavan, namely the Madana Mohan Temple, Govinda Temple, Gopinath Temple, Sri Radha Ramana Temple, Radha Shamasundar Temple, Radha Damodar Temple, and Gokulananda Temple. So, that's all the information I immediately have about Radha-kund. One interesting thing, since most of us have not actually been to India, I was just curiously looking at a map of Vrindavan, just Vrindavan on Google Maps. I was curious as to where Govardhan was, because my own spiritual master, he was holding his camp at Govardhan, and he specifically said not Vrindavan. I was thinking, isn't Govardhan immediately next to Vrindavan? But no, Govardhan is actually 10 miles away from Vrindavan, like that. And Radha-kund is just at not just, but it's closely situated at the feet, of course, Govardhan is shrunk now, just as it's described in the Upadeshamrita. Radha-kund is situated at the base of Govardhan Hill. So, similarly, from present-day Vrindavan village, Radha-kund is situated about 10 miles to the west of it. So just some interesting information. So getting to today's verse, you can pull it back up and we can go over it again. 2:8:17. I'll just read the translation and mention some of the purport. Maharaj Parikshit is asking, please continue with his questions. Please explain all the different ages in the duration of creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. And Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he's saying, of course, this question is answered practically throughout the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam follows the descent of the Manus and subsequently not necessarily the changes of the yugas, that is described, but the different, the change of Manus is also described, that's there, as well as the different incarnations, Manvantars specifically that appear, as well as so many different incarnations are also coming there. Specifically, he's asking here, Yuga Manam, specifically about Manvantars here, but generally you can take it as all the incarnations. And Srila Prabhupada, he takes it like that. In the purport, he says, Lord Krishna is the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations of the Supreme Lord, although non-different from him, are emanations from the Supreme. And he says, Maharaj Parikshit, inquire from the great and learned sage Shukadeva Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations, so that the incarnation of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man, to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnation of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literatures and confirmed by an Acharya like Shukadeva Goswami. So it's a common point. Srila Prabhupada would constantly make this point, actually. Even though in the West, we don't have so much experience. Well, I guess it's changing nowadays, but at least, I don't know, myself, when I was growing up, there was no idea of accepting another human being to be God other than Jesus Christ. And Srila Prabhupada was quite shocked when he came to America, actually, and he saw that, of course, immediately it wasn't going on, but when India opened up its borders and they abolished the P form, so many swamis and yogis and pseudo-incarnations started coming to America, and Srila Prabhupada was actually shocked that Western people were accepting these bogus men as God, because Western people were supposed to be educated. Somehow it has worked its way, this cheap acceptance of a common man as God has worked its way into contemporary Hindu or Indian culture, so that it's more or less this phenomenon of accepting somebody with a material body that passes stool to be God is it's a common practice within Hinduism. In fact, it's some people, they consider it offensive if you deny the godhood of someone or divinity of someone. Just like, for example, there's so many different examples. One prominent one is Sai Baba. I mean, there's two of them. If you deny the divinity of either of them, people become very, very upset, actually. So it's necessary to understand these things on the basis of Shastra. Who is an incarnation? Incarnations have symptoms. It's not just that you take some, as was prominent at least in the hippie days, that you take some LSD and you become an acid god. LSD made God. Or you perform some sort of austerity, or you manifest some ash or some gold or some watch or some sort of manifestation like this, and it proves your godhood. God isn't proved by, divinity isn't shown by manifesting dust. It's shown by performing, specifically it's said here, yad ashcharya tatam harehe, by wonderful acts. Just like Srila Prabhupada will often quote or challenge, actually, that Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill at such a young age with his pinky. Can these men who are claiming to be God do such a thing? So these wonderful acts, they're described in Shastra. Of course, Krishna himself, he's not particularly, he's an avatar in a sense, but he performed so many different wonderful acts. And among those, so many to describe there, he relieved the earth's burden of the demonic influences, as well as other incarnations, just like so many there. Just like Nrsimhadev, he came to specifically protect his devotee Prahlad, as described in Shastra, as well as other incarnations, just like Lord Buddha is also described in the Bhagavatam in different places, notably the first canto's third chapter, and there is described the village he'll appear in, his parents, etc., and the activities he'll go on to do, how he'll, of course, when Vyasadeva compiled the Bhagavatam, it was a prediction, and you see these things carried out. So all this is there in Shastra. So to accept someone as God, there is a confirmation in Shastra. And within Shastra, there's so many different confirmations, just as by different Mahajans, great personalities. Shukadeva Goswami, Garga Muni has given a prediction. Prahlad Maharaj himself, he says, Itam nritirya grishya deva jashavatarir, lokan vibhava yasi hamji jagat pratipan, dharmam mahapurusha pasyuga nuvritam, chanah kalau yad abhavastri yogo tasadvam. He says, Prahlad Maharaj says to God himself, to Nrsimhadev himself, in this way, my Lord, you appear in various incarnations as a human being, an animal, a great saint, a demigod, a fish, a tortoise, thus maintaining the entire creation in different planetary systems and killing the demonic principles. According to the age, O my Lord, you protect the principles of religion. In the age of Kali, however, you do not assert yourself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore you are known as Triyuga, or the Lord who appears in 3 yugas. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya, he is known as Chana Avatar, the covered incarnation, the covered avatar, because he doesn't directly assert himself. And why is described here by Srila Prabhupada in the purport to this verse. On the contrary, some pretext, I guess some more sentence to this. In all the yugas but Kali Yuga, the Lord appears in various incarnations and asserts himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But although Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who appears in Kali Yuga, is the personality of Godhead, he never asserted himself as such. On the contrary, whenever Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was addressed as being as good as Krishna, he blocked his ears with his hands, denying his identity with Krishna, because he was playing the part of a devotee. Lord Chaitanya knew that in Kali Yuga there would be many bogus incarnations pretending to be God, and therefore he avoided asserting himself as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he knew these things will take place in Kali Yuga. They took place, they're continuing to take place, just like I was trying to look up one previously famous bogus guru. Now he's kind of drifted into obscurity. He had millions of followers during Srila Prabhupada's time. His name is Guru Maharaj Ji. And looking him up, there's another self-styled Guru Maharaj Ji in Africa, coming out of Africa. So these things are constantly going on. Just like I was speaking just some weeks ago, I was shopping and I met this very old man. He saw that I was a Hare Krishna and he approached me. He was speaking some things to me. And he said, yeah, I was, back in my day, devotees came to my campus and they told me, what was that? What did he say? Chant Hare Krishna and you'll feel bliss. But I chanted Hare Krishna and I only got a headache. And so he was like, so I was like, so what do you, he looked to be like on some sort of spiritual trip. So I was like, why didn't you, I was bewildered. And he said, I was always following Guru Maharaj Ji, this bogus 13-year-old supposed incarnation who said in a public assembly of 1 million people in Delhi, he claimed himself to be better than Krishna and Rama. Somehow he came to the West and bewildered a whole bunch of Westerners as well. So anyway, this guy was following this bogus incarnation. As a result, he wasn't properly able to understand Krishna consciousness. And then, these people, they come and go like waves in the ocean. Just like this Guru Maharaj Ji, although previously so famous, now nobody knows about him practically. Even this guy I asked, so like, do you still follow this? Do you still follow this bogus guy? And he said, no, I don't follow him anymore. I still do the meditation occasionally, but I found another guru just here in Atlanta. And it's like so it's everywhere actually. We may not directly see it on a day-to-day basis, but these things are everywhere. So yeah, there's so many different things. Just like Srila Prabhupada, another prominent bogus guru during his time. There's so many actually. But at least during the West, there's this I forget what they call it nowadays, but this Maharishi Yogi. Srila Prabhupada would constantly criticize his, although he was not exactly presenting himself as God necessarily, but his process of giving somebody a mantra for money, giving somebody spiritual knowledge, or rather demanding money from somebody in exchange for spiritual knowledge is ridiculous. In the journey of self-discovery, there's a very nice quote from Srila Prabhupada about this. I remember reading this for the first time. It's just some interview, I believe. So, journalist, I think that an awful lot of our readers and an awful lot of people in the United States are terribly confused with the many people who claim to be avatars and who come from India to this country, one after the other. Srila Prabhupada, I can declare they're all nonsense. Journalist, could you elaborate a little more on that? Srila Prabhupada, and I can say furthermore, they're all rascals. The journalist, the Maharishi, for example, Srila Prabhupada, he's rascal number one. I say it publicly. Journalist, could you explain that? Give me a little background on that. Srila Prabhupada, from his behavior, I can understand he's rascal number one. But the wonderful thing is that the people in the Western countries, they're supposed to be advanced. How are they befooled by these rascals? And actually, so many people in the Western countries, they took to these bogus, just like even now, his, whatever, I don't know the name of his institution now, but it's going on still. The same process is going on still, and they charge more than $5 for the mantra now. So these things are going on, as Srila Prabhupada would famously say. And Srila Prabhupada wasn't afraid to point these things out publicly, actually. Just as here, when he's speaking to a journalist, this is going to be published. Srila Prabhupada knows this is going to be published. So similarly too, I was just reading somewhere in Bombay. I'm reading in this book by Giriraj Swami, and there was one. I believe it was something like a scholarly journal or something like this. It was a book published basically on all the phenomenon of all these bogus yogis and swamis from India claiming to be God coming to America. And Srila Prabhupada, he gave an interview for that, which was then published in the book. I forget exactly the name. It's something having Godman in the name. But Srila Prabhupada, he publicly spoke about it. He printed it in his own books. He had it printed in other books. And actually, Srila Prabhupada, he kept that article that was published in this book on file. So he would, when traveling and meeting people, he would show people who he would meet. You see, they published this article in this. I've said this about these bogus incarnations, etc. like this. Srila Prabhupada isn't afraid. He would publicly call out such things. And he would strongly establish that incarnations are not accepted whimsically or blindly. And even himself, Srila Prabhupada, he didn't directly, just as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't directly assert himself as God. There's one exchange in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, somewhere in the Sanatana Shiksha section, where Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami. Lord Chaitanya, he's describing the different incarnations for the age. He's describing, quoting for Gargamuni, etc., quoting this, he quotes famously, the chief prediction of himself, Krishnam Varnam Tvishag Krishnam, Sango Pangashta Parshadam, Yagyai Sankirtanam Prayer, Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Lord Chaitanya says this, and Sanatana Goswami, he presses him, and he says, could you explain more explicitly about this? What are the symptoms, etc. like this? And Lord Chaitanya continues on, he says this incarnation for the age of Kali, he will establish the congregational chanting of the holy names of Krishna. His body will appear in a molten golden color, etc. like this. And Sanatana Goswami, he presses him further. And he says, so you're saying these things, could you describe a little bit more about the incarnation of Kali Yuga to me? And Lord Chaitanya stops him and he says, Sanatana Goswami, give up your intelligent tricks. And he continues on to explain the philosophy to Sanatana Goswami. But he never admitted himself to be God. Actually, in some places, he assumed the role. And you could say it like that, but definitely not publicly. In Srivas Thakur's house, but that was strictly amongst the devotees. But publicly, he surely never declared himself such. We see even in, I believe his childhood, as Nimai Pandit, I'm just forgetting, when people would praise himself as God, also in the sannyas era, when outsiders, even devotees, would claim Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be God, he would block his ears and chant Vishnu, Vishnu, Vishnu. So, what to speak of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Even Srila Prabhupada himself, he never accepted, of course, Srila Prabhupada always acted on the principle of Trinadapi Sunichana Toror Eva Sahishna, always acting with a great deal of humility. And not only, he never presented himself to be he never even presented himself to be some great acharya, some great, huge personality. He always acted with humility. What did speak of claiming himself to be God? Whereas these godmen, they present themselves openly. They'll claim that directly or indirectly, they'll claim themselves to be God, or they will do some roundabout bewilderment, and they themselves not claim to be God, but their followers may claim them to be God. But it's directly cheating or indirectly cheating. If such things are going on, and a person doesn't stop deny such claims to divinity, then he's bogus. We see in 1970, when four sannyasis, when the movement were claiming Srila Prabhupada to be God, immediately Srila Prabhupada took extremely strong action against them, actually. They were speaking it was actually Janmashtami, and they were giving very heavy lectures, claiming how devotees had neglected Srila Prabhupada and they misunderstood Srila Prabhupada's position. And then actually Srila Prabhupada was saying that he himself was Krishna, and devotees had to acknowledge this. So Srila Prabhupada was in Tokyo at the time, Japan, and devotees, they became so concerned, and the sannyasis were actually bewildering the devotees, actually. They were creating a very big issue within the festival that was going on there. And devotees called Prabhupada, and immediately Prabhupada took very strong action. Immediately, he banned these four sannyasis from the society. He didn't allow them to stay in any ISKCON center and sent them out basically just back to the world, more or less. But he didn't reject them necessarily. Of course, their history is there. Eventually, they rectified themselves, and actually, they did great service. One such sannyasi, he notably went to Florida and established, knowingly or unknowingly, the present-day Krishna Lutch there in Gainesville, and it's going on even to this day, as well as others. I believe another one, he went to a few places. He went to Texas, and he established the temple in Austin, which still, the building is different, but the devotee presence in Austin, it still continues to this day, and still, etc. like this. So, but the point is, without going on a tangent, Srila Prabhupada immediately took strong action when his followers were trying to assert a divinity unto him. So again, Srila Prabhupada, with these things, this aspect of characteristics of incarnations, that we accept incarnations based upon their characteristics and descriptions in Shastra. I was just saying previously, Prahlad Maharaj, he gives his prediction. Garga Muni, he gives his prediction. Karabhajana Yogendra, he gives his prediction with the Krishna Varnam to Shakrishnam verse. And then Bhishma Dev, he also gives his prediction in the Mahabharata. He says, Suvarna Varna He Mango Varnangash Chananangadi Sanyasa Krishna Chamah Shantu Nishta Shanti Parayanaha. This is a verse from the Vishnu Sahasranam. Translation is, the Lord in the incarnation of Gaurasundar, of course that's not there in the, the Sanskrit, but has a golden complexion. Indeed, his entire body is very nicely constituted. It is like molten gold. Sandalwood pulp is smeared all over his body. He will take the fourth order of spiritual life, sannyas, and he will be very much self-controlled. He will be distinguished from the Mayavadi sannyasis in that way he will be fixed in devotional service and will spread the Sankirtan movement. So there are so many different other predictions in Shastra. You could give whole classes on it practically, just like the 11th canto. I don't know the beginning of the verses, but the two verses that is described for, who is that? I believe Krishna actually is talking to Uddhava, if I'm not wrong. He's talking about the different mantras to worship different incarnations for the different ages. And in describing the mantra to worship the incarnation of the age of Kali, he gives two mantras, two verses that end with the refrain. What is that? Krishna Keshi, you probably know. Vande Mahaprabhu, something like that. What is that? Vande Mahapurusha Te Charanaravinda. Two verses, yeah. Mm-hmm. And these verses, they both actually they describe Krishna, Rama, and also Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So these predictions are there. There's descriptions, predictions, the Padma Purana, Narada Purana, etc. like that. So many things are there. So these things aren't accepted blindly, without intelligence. They're established on the basis of Shastra. And they're confirmed by an acharya. It's not just taken, not just Shastra alone, but they're confirmed by great personalities. Just as Srila Prabhupada makes the point within his Bhagavatam that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is accepted by such great obviously Bhishma, Prahlad, etc. are predicting like this, but also personalities, acharyas such as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, etc. All these, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, all these spiritually very elevated people, they accepted Lord Chaitanya. They confirmed Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be God. So these things are confirmed by sadhus on the basis of Shastra. Srila Prabhupada continues, he says, the Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. So incarnations, they have specific roles, and their activities are uncommon in the sense that they're completely separate, actually, from the activities of the conditioned soul. They're unmistakable. Just as I was showing someone today, just as Prahlad Maharaj, he prays to Nrsimhadev. There's one verse, Nasyedam Atmani Jagad Vilayambu Madhye Shishitmanani Sukhanu Bhavanirihaha Yogina Milita Durgatna Nimhitani Durasturi Stito Natutano Nagunamshta Yunkshe. So Prahlad Maharaj, he prays to Nrsimhadev that paraphrasing a lot here. He says, "My dear Lord Nrsimhadev, at the end of the creation, when the annihilation takes place, you also sleep. But that sleep, it's different. Yogina milita drigatma nipita nidras. That sleep is yoga nidra. And within that sleep, you're not contaminated by the modes of material nature. Rather, you exist in Turiya, the fourth state of existence, the transcendental state, above tamogun. And in this sleep, you enjoy transcendental bliss. You're not merged into ignorance like the conditioned souls. Furthermore, there's so many different things. You could go on and on. Just I was mentioning, Srila Prabhupada often quote that Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 8. So too, etc. like this, anyone claiming to be incarnation should prove these things. They should demonstrate these wonderful qualities. Not that they just pass stool, and eat, sleep, mate, and defend like an ordinary man. And specifically, they also age. Srila Prabhupada, he would criticize bogus godmen within India, saying that they're claiming to be God, but God within Shastra is described as the most beautiful, the most young, the most sublime to look at. And these godmen, they have bodies of rotting old men who are falling apart, decrepit. They're confined to wheelchairs. They're attacked by disease. They cannot even, Srila Prabhupada would give the example, they can't even if they get one toothache, they can't do anything about that. Immediately they have to take shelter of a dentist. But God doesn't have to do such things. As well as there's so many other things. Kunti Devi in her prayers, she describes so many, within the Bhagavad Gita actually, Krishna says that why the symptoms of incarnation, what he does, paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam. So any incarnation, they protect the devotees, or give pleasure to the devotees, and they annihilate the demons. Prominently, we see Lord Krishna, when he came to this world, he annihilated so many demons. He practically removed the whole demoniac rule of Kamsa and his henchmen and his associates off the face of the world. And then at the end, he also annihilated the Yadu dynasty, also considering them to be a burden on the world. And even when Krishna was present here on the world, we saw so many different symptoms. Queen Kunti, she prays, Imijana Padasvridda, Subhakvashadi Vrudaha, Vanadri Nadi Udhanvantu, Hidanti Tava Vrikshitaha. That when Krishna was personally present in the world, all the villages and cities of the world were overflowing with wealth. All herbs and grains were in abundance, the trees were full of fruit, the rivers were clearly flowing. The hills and mountains were full of jewels and minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. All of this were simply due to Krishna's glance upon them. So too, there's another verse, I'm just forgetting the Sanskrit. The demigods similarly pray to Lord Krishna within the womb. He says that by the marks of your lotus feet upon this world, all the world will become graced with such good fortune. So, simply by the presence of an incarnation in this world, there are notable symptoms. It was notably marked, it said, from the very day that Krishna left this world, when he departed back to his own abode, he took with him, Gyanadi, what is that? Krishna Svadhamo Bhagate, Dharma Gyanadi Bisaha. He took with him immediately, Dharma left with him, and Jnana, knowledge, also left with him. And immediately Kali Yuga set in. Immediately there was immediately, and the vision was, the vision was dark, more or less. Darkness entered into this world. So immediately you can tell these things, that when there's a very great personality, when there's a very prominent, when an avatar is present within this world, there are definite symptoms. Just as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he, of course, it may not be universally, but we see, even within, it's described there, Srila Prabhupada says, that when Lord Chaitanya, of course that was due to the grace of, who's that? Mukunda, Vasudeva, what is it? Vasudeva Datta, due to his grace, all the sins were eradicated. All living entities achieved liberation, who were there during the time of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But there are different symptoms, is my point. So like this, it shouldn't be taken cheaply. It shouldn't be taken without reference to these things. And Srila Prabhupada was very adamant on this. He continues on. He says that the specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should also know that the activities of the Lord and the Lord Himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly, and association with the Lord directly means purification from material contamination. We've already discussed this point in the previous volume. Presumably, he's quoting this. What is that? It was just in my mind. Krishna Katha, he has that in there. What is that? By discussing Krishna Katha, Shushushoshadananasya Vasudevakta Rishi San Mahat Sevayaparipa Vidanoti Punya Tirtha Nishevana. Then, what's the one after that? That's what I'm thinking of. What's the verse after that? 1:2:17. It's so famous. Oh gosh. Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Hridayantastu Padrani Vidanunti Saritsatam. And of course, the incarnation for this age is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But prominent Krishna is also here in the form of the Bhagavatam. And so by associating with the Bhagavatam, interestingly, Srila Prabhupada is saying here, by hearing about the Lord is as good as associating with Him. Associating with the Bhagavatam is as good as hearing directly from the Lord Himself, by being with Krishna Himself. And of course, that verse is there as was quoted. And just recently we saw one verse in here that describes by hearing topics about Krishna Katha, it cleanses the heart just as autumnal rains cleanse dirty pools of water. So these things are there. So that's all I have specific to say. It's very simple purport in one sense, but straightforward. Srila Prabhupada would speak on it many, many times. This because it's a big problem, actually. It's a big problem. If you meet people, and especially in book distribution, you meet so many people who are just bewildered by these bogus gurus, bogus incarnations. And this knowledge is needed in society. So I'll end my class there, take any comments, questions, additions anybody may have at this point.
Regarding this, like you were saying in the beginning of the class, that many religions, they don't accept incarnation of God, a God coming in a human form or anything like that. And recently I was reading a little bit about the Jews, and that's one of the problems they have with Christianity is that...
the Muslims too, that's a big problem they have with... It's the same point.
Yeah, well, the Muslims, the thing is that, and primarily the Jews, the Christians also have a problem with that. Sorry, the Muslims also have a problem with that. And the Jews, especially, they get very upset that the Christians worship Jesus as God, and the concept of Trinity, they don't accept that. And then... they don't even believe that there were any prophets after whatever the prophets that they accept. And then I was reading a little bit about their prophets, and I was like, it's like some of their prophets, which are also prophets in Christianity and Islam, they also accept the same people as prophets. I don't know, some of their stories are not really like... The prophets are supposed to be something like spiritual masters, but their example is anything but ideal in many ways. It goes so far that there are statements in Judaism, not probably directly from the Torah or I don't know where, but where there are statements that authorize Jews to kill Christians. And then, of course, Muslims have statements like this, and it's all based on this thing that, you can't accept God in any human form or human-like form. In fact, it seems that the Jews actually believe that God is impersonal.
Yeah, they do.
And I didn't know that.
They do.
I didn't know that, which is very interesting because I wonder how Christianity then got a personal concept of God. and where that came
Yeah,
from.
Prabhupada said that too. I was just reading, actually, Giri Raj Swami. He mentions in, there's one, I'm sorry to interject, this just comes to my mind. There's one, I think it was a morning walk. I'm hazing on the details. I just read this in Giri Raj Swami's book. He was saying, somehow they got in the point of, Dr. Patel, actually, he was he was praising the Jews. He was saying they've done such like good work. They're very like hard workers and like that. And like he was, and I mean, many of Srila Prabhupada's disciples themselves were formerly Jews, at least ethnically. And then Brahmananda Prabhu, Guru Raj Swami was as well. I guess, technically. But anyway, they were there in the morning walk, Brahmananda Prabhu and Guru Raj Swami. And like, Dr. Patel was praising this, but then Srila Prabhupada basically called the Jews impersonalists, more or less, because they don't have a clear understanding of God. So yeah. Anyway, sorry to interrupt, that just came to verify that.
That was like the point, because it seems that because they consider God as impersonal, the Jews and the Muslims, they completely refuse that such a God can appear as an incarnation. Which I found to be very interesting, because when I'm coming from the background I come from, we also thought that God was impersonal. Brahman and this and that. But we never had a problem with incarnations. We said, yeah, that's possible, that's acceptable. But I found that to be very interesting, because like you were saying, there's just no concept of that.
Krishna Keshav, you have something?
When I was, it's a comment, and like I want to further your, this one topic on incarnations and who's God. When I first time heard Srila Prabhupada speaking, because I read Prabhupada's book Bhagavad Gita for at least 6-7 months, and it was okay for me, yeah. But when I heard Prabhupada's lectures, for like days and days and years, for at least a year initially before joining, then I was startled by the way Prabhupada was just smashing in every, practically mostly lectures. You see, Prabhupada would speak about Guru Maharaj Ji openly. There are so many lectures wherein in Denmark, there is a particular morning walk, room conversation, but Prabhupada will say that I will openly challenge that guy. You call him, and if he has so much Shakti, then... So I was just thinking, why Prabhupada is, how is that Prabhupada is... Then when I read Chaitanya Charitamrita, then my doubts got cleared. Particularly the 7th chapter of Adi Leela. What is that?
What is that? Adi Leela? Lord Chaitanya in 5 features? That one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I read that particular phase, and when I asked, devotees at that time, then devotee said Prabhupada specifically wanted a separate book on that.
Yeah.
So the Lord Chaitanya and 5 features. And I was searching for that book years and years. But then when I got 2 copies, I kept those 2 copies with me. Although 2 copies is too much, I can give it to somebody else. Because I read it 8-9 times, that book, that particular book. Why? Because Prabhupada gives n number of reasons, why there are 2 things. One is godlessness, and other one is bogus incarnations. This why there are so much of godlessness going on all over the world. And Prabhupada here and there mentions in many places, but if you read this 7th chapter of Adi Leela, then you will understand. In particular, one purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, I can read. The mission of human life as described in Bhagavad Gita is to surrender unto the Supreme Lord and become his devotee. But the Mayavad philosophy misleads one to defy the existence of Supreme Personality of Godhead and pose oneself as the Supreme God. Thus, it has misguided hundreds of thousands of innocent men. The main, if you read this whole, this one, you can see the mood of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and Srila Prabhupada. This is what they have come to annihilate. So unless and until Mayavad is not annihilated to the core, even in India or any part of the world, Christianity is nothing but another phase of Mayavad. This is nothing but that. Like one day I was giving the class and I was telling that this impersonalism is there in all religions. Only Vaishnavas, why, like, Vaishnava communities, like Sampradayas get bewildered. Why if you go to South India now, to any house, now Sai Baba is worshipped instead of Lord Ranganath or Ramanujacharya. They have big photos in their Sri Vaishnava's house. They have big photos of Sai Baba. Why? Because Mayavad has entered.
Yeah.
So the main problem of incarnation, you see, all the Mayavadis, all the so-called people in India, they accept Shastra that they have marks, this is incarnation, that is Yuga Avatar. They accept all the Shastra, but they will never accept this. This is the problem. They will never accept this Nirakarvad, Nirvisheshavad. If you come to that particular point, then that's all. There is hell lot of discussion and there is fights. So the main problem of incarnations or bogus people coming all the way, or in India also. What to speak of that? In India there are, in every state, every district, there are, I can go on list, I can give speak about them, who is there in every state and all. So everywhere they are there. If you go to them and speak that in the Shastra it is said Krishna, they will accept. But when it comes to, ultimately, in India, if you go that, Atithi Devo Bhava, they consider whoever comes, comes for begging alms, they consider him as God. Can you imagine? God may come in different form. God may come in as a form as a beggar, God may come as a form of this one. So this Maya, until unless the Mayavad is even within those people who are speaking, even the Keith or four, they were reading Mayavad books, Buddhist philosophies and all those things. That's what they were. Prabhupada was dead against this one. Then they understood it is the Mayavad within their heart. That is the problem. It is not that Prabhupada was having some grudge in India way back, so-called Mayavadis. It's not like that. So unless and until Mayavad is gone, even our sense gratificatory desire, so that is the last snare of Maya. We cannot become a pure devotee and we have that thing. So that is what I want to make. So devotee should read this Lord Chaitanya 5 features or Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 7th chapter to understand many points. Prabhupada is giving so many things about Mayavad in this particular chapter. One will be bewildered to see that this much core, the Prabhupada is Acharyas against Mayavad philosophy. So godlessness and bogus incarnations come because of Mayavad.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. Just like you see, there's one Mayavadi sannyasi, Swami Chinmayananda, is very prominent during Srila Prabhupada's time. He helped our movement to some extent. He was very polite and courteous to Srila Prabhupada, but there's one devotee tells a story, I forget his name, I don't know if he was initiated or not, Indian devotee. He was a follower of this Swami. And he went to Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, Swami Chinmayananda says that he's God. And so Srila Prabhupada said, oh, if he's God, you go back and ask him, why are you getting old? Why are your teeth falling out like this? And he went back and he asked him, and he says, well, I have to show these things because otherwise people won't respect me if I'm not old. And Srila Prabhupada, this devotee went back to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada said that rascal, he's under the three modes of he's controlled by nature. You tell him to come here and we'll debate. Srila Prabhupada and Swami Chinmayananda. Of course, he denied the debate, but Srila Prabhupada, he specifically, he helped our movement in some ways, specifically in India. He gave credit, I think, specifically with the brainwashing things in India, as well as some things with the temples there, getting permission from the government. And so Srila Prabhupada, in appreciation for his service, he gave him a copy of that book, of the 7th chapter of Adi Leela Chaitanya Charitamrita. And Srila Prabhupada specifically said, you should give Mayavadis this book.
Yeah,
this
this you should distribute to Mayavadis.
Yeah.
This particular book. And I was, the time when I heard that point, the day when I heard this, that devotee whom we were staying, he told that this particular book Prabhupada wanted to give in Mayavadis. And I used to go in Chennai to every bogus place and I used to give this, this book was not there, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and to show this particular thing. And I was so inspired to speak. I used to speak to my father, showing this book, showing to many. But the problem is that they will never accept. They may accept this is that, okay. But it is very difficult to, that boy who came, that Shrikar or
Yeah.
anybody. It's very difficult because Mayavadi Bhashya Sunle Hoy Sarvanash. The whole spiritual life will be doomed. Many people, many students, they come for, like, in India also they come. But when they hear that, Krishna is only God and all others are not God, we are this one, immediately they get turned off.
Anything else from anyone? Any of them?
A small question. You, in explaining, I forget which bogus guru was selling mantras.
Yeah.
You said
He still does.
Oh, he
Actually,
still
he's
does.
no longer alive, but in the form of his society,
his
he's going on.
parampara. His parampara sells mantras. So you say that demanding money for knowledge, this is wrong because it's demanding money for the knowledge.
Yeah.
But you-
Brahmanas, they give knowledge, and then they subside on donations.
Okay.
I mean, traditionally, the student give. What's the word for that? What is that? Dakshina. The student gives dakshina. The student gives something. It's part of culture. The student, by culture, he gives something to his teacher, and so automatically it's there. But it's not like a financial relationship, in other words, as it's become now. That particular guru, he was very clear that it's like, you give me money, you pay this $5. Now it has gone up more. I think it's like 35 or 50 or something like that. And then, you'll go. There's whole societies like this. There's one completely bogus society based upon the amount of money you give to the society. You advance in the society. You're supposed to advance spiritually like that. So it's a mistaken idea. So anyway,
would it be an incorrect approach to book distribution? If we take this quote, demanding money for knowledge is improper. So, what about book distribution?
Well, the thing is, we don't strictly. Book distribution is not when it boils down to it, it's an exchange of spiritual knowledge, and it is not just a business transaction. The problem is, people aren't interested in this knowledge. So we have to qualify them to become interested in the knowledge. That's the idea behind Sukriti. They're giving something, they're doing some service, and so in that way they'll qualify themselves to understand the books. It's not that usually most people it's not that you go out to the street and people are like falling at your feet trying to get the books, and you say, well, first you have to give me $50 and then, or $60 now, and then I'll give you like a Saptarishi. Until we find that if somebody's really sincere, and somebody's super sincere, and they just don't have any money, if you don't give them anything, it's very cruel, actually. It's a form of violence. At least something. You don't have to give them the whole Bhagavatam set, but if you deny them the spiritual knowledge. So, of course, we understand that we practice that, but I'm just saying it's different from what these people are doing. Very distinctly different. Is that make sense?
That settles that. Is there any Shakti in these mantras that they're giving?
No, they're not coming in a bona fide. Even if the mantra itself is bona fide, Srila Prabhupada says you have to receive the mantra from a spiritual master coming in a sampradaya. This guy he has some sampradaya, but it's not coming from Brahma, Lakshmi, Shiva, etc. like that. It's not bona fide sampradaya. You wanted to add something? Actually, I think he comes from Shankaracharya.
No. Bogus.
Doesn't he? No?
Useless, bogus. It is said in Padma Puran that Sampradaya Vihina Mantraste Nishpalami Mataha. There's a whole shloka explaining Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, the whole shloka is there. If you want, I can send you that. So Sampradaya Vihina So he's not coming from any, no Sampradaya person will come all the way to United States and then claim to be God. No one comes like that. Nobody does. Even the Shankaracharyas, they don't come all the way here and then claim.
At least according to the internet, his guru was the Shankaracharya Jyotirmat in India.
See, what I can say, every bogus fellow, they come from either by Vivekananda's this one mat or either by Sadananda, Shivananda. There are so many people who are, and we don't know whether they have come all the way from Shankaracharya or not. But everybody claims they have a guru in India. So it has no way relation with the main. Even Shankara Sampradaya is different. It doesn't come under the four bona fide Sampradayas. It is different.
Yeah.
Four Sampradayas are Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, Ramanuja, Madhva, and Vishnu Swami and Nimbarka. These are the four bona fide. And we accept Shankaracharya as an incarnation Acharya because he has written Vedanta Sutra. That's all. Commentary on that.
You want to add something to that? To what Jiro was saying?
Two things. One is the way Mayavadis claim themselves to have gurus is that it's not necessarily the way a Vaishnava accepts a guru
It's just
and takes
adherence, just say like I follow
diksha
them.
and surrenders and like that. There is some semblance of it, but in like for instance, many people where I come from Tamil Smartha family. So they all accept the Shankaracharya of Kanchi as guru. But it's not that they actually received any diksha or anything like that. But they take some instruction,
Guidance, they
kind of
listen to
some
them, yeah.
guidance, or in fact it's more cultural than philosophical, to be frank. So like this, the concept of what they call as guru and as parampara is very different. In the
Do they give
Vaishnava
diksha?
Sampradaya-
Do they give diksha? The actual
Not the
Mayavada?
Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya, the Sampradaya
no,
itself.
you don't get any diksha.
So it's just-
The only thing the only thing you can do is if you're really bona fide, that the diksha you receive when you are Naishtika Brahmachari and then you take sannyas, Mayavad sannyas. And yeah, I mean you cannot do that, without being born in
How
a
do they have a
Brahmana family.
Sampradaya without diksha? I don't understand. How is it that they qualify? I mean, they not qualify, but how do they consider themselves as a Sampradaya?
No,
if they
because
don't
they
have diksha?
always have a lineage of Naishtika Brahmachari sannyasis who are pontiffs of the mutt, going one after another, after another, after another. Is that clear? From
Yeah,
Shankaracharya, there is an
I
unbroken
understand,
line.
yeah. I see. So it's been established in that way.
There is
yeah.
an unbroken line of Mayavadi sannyasis who have taken up the
Basically, the
position
mutts constitute his Sampradaya, more or
yeah,
less.
and they pontificate in those certain mutts, and that unbroken lineage is continuing. In Sringeri, in Puri, in Dwarka. Anyways, Kanchi was kind of controversial. Anyways, I won't get into that. Now, regarding what Jitagirish Prabhu was asking, is that these mantras, the effect is not there because, well, you were asking if the mantra has any effect at all, right? Any effect. If whatever they claim is all manasija, actually, it means it's in the mind. It's in the mind, it's mental platform. Because whatever they experience is simply through karma phala. And Krishna, he says in Bhagavad Gita, yo yam tanum shraddha, yo yam tanum bhakta shraddha architam ichchati. Tasya achalam shraddham tame vidadamiham. It's almost like if you take that verse stand alone without connecting it with the other verses in before and after, although Krishna is directly referring to demigods, it literally says that whatever one wants to place one faith in and become a devotee of that, Krishna gives that faith, so that through that faith that particular person feels that he got that benefit from Sai Baba, although it's impossible from a Vedic standpoint. And that's how Shastra says it. These people think that they get benefits from all these things, but actually they don't. And that's why you cannot explain to people these things like we were experiencing the other day. That if you tell them that you don't have any benefit because what you're following, they know chakra nothing, because you're not following Ashtanga Yoga. You have no clue what even chakra is. How do you know whether you're getting benefit from it? But they will not accept. Because you can't be philosophical with them. They're not on the platform of any philosophy. So you say, oh yeah, you're getting some benefit. Whatever benefit you get, actually you get that in Krishna consciousness and you get a lot more. That's the only way to take it. Otherwise they...
You're convinced of it, therefore you get peace of mind.
Like I said, it's on the mental platform. Because if you actually start to analyze what peace is, they don't have that, but they're not willing to analyze anything like that.
Like some sort of content.
I was trying to tell them, I was trying to say it's like a 5-minute break. is a 5-minute piece. What's the use of that? That's not peace.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're not going to accept it.
The reason they're falsely convinced of that is because they've, on the mental platform, somehow tricked themselves that they're content.
Well, that's the thing. It's that there is on the mental platform there is no ground. There is no like solid foundation of understanding anything, because it's all like whatever you feel like at that moment. And how do you understand that? You can't understand it. So.
Okay, I know you have something, but do the Maharaji's have anything they want to? No?
I have something to say extra.
Uh-huh. Can you make it short so Janardhan gets a
Yeah,
chance?
short. Vijay Prabhu said. Everybody. Anybody has? You want to?
No, just say it quick and then give
Yeah.
it to Janardhan.
Vijay Prabhu said that he went to this Mahesh Yogi. Please listen. Please listen. Vijay Prabhu said he went to this Mahesh Yogi at that time and he gave $35. He paid $35 and got a mantra called Om Ain Kim. This is what he said. Vijay Prabhu. He was asked that before coming to... Then he got Bhagavad Gita and he was told this Maha Mantra you chant and it is open without free. And he was surprised and he was started chanting and read Bhagavad Gita. And at that time he chanted and he thought it would be giving so-called happiness to him. But when he came to the genuine thing, read Bhagavad Gita, chanted Hare Krishna mantra, then he understood that this is all bogus. So he also paid. What I am saying is they pay this much money and they are told not to disclose this mantra to anybody else. So this is all mental platform in one sense.
Janardhan?
I didn't have a question.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
This is regard to that. So if they chant this bogus mantra, and they start chanting Hare Krishna, it's not that they're saying like if a snake touches like milk, it becomes poison. So if they chant like this Mayavad mantra and they try to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, won't that actually contaminate? Like
they as in like
a devotee say somebody and they're influenced by Mayavad, they're chanting these bogus Mayavad mantras, and then they're coming into Krishna consciousness and they chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Isn't that because they've been chanting these Mayavad mantra, they're already contaminated by Mayavad? So by the time they chant Hare Krishna,
no,
it's
I
not
mean, just like you just gave an example. Vijay Prabhu. I mean, he was presumably chanting that mantra. He got the mantra and he was chanting. The thing is, they're not. They don't follow under the category of this a Vaishnava. Literally, you could take it as somebody who's not a Vaishnava, but specifically, actually, what's being referred to over there is somebody who's actually antagonistic to Vaishnava principles, or like actively like. So these people, what Vishnu Chilipur was saying, if you're innocent and you get bewildered by these things, it's kind of like. But those who actively like, knowingly, just like this yogi did, manipulate the process, etc., like this, actively deceive people, cheat themselves and cheat others, then that's different.
Does it like?
Actually, we see so many Prabhupada disciples. They were into this transcendental meditation, and then they came to the Krishna consciousness after. So,
But it took them a long. Even like I read in Lamrita, even though they were attending Prabhupada's classes, they had like it took them like years to even get over. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, those who are, just succinctly put, those who are sincere, I mean, Krishna guides them. People take to these things, are sometimes bewildered by these things because they're looking for something. Some people are genuinely looking for something. So Krishna reciprocates with them and he gives them knowledge. Other people, they just want to be cheated. They want to cheat themselves and cheat others. So Krishna likes that. Just like this guy, I met, his whole life is wasted. Krishna gave him the chance. He could have been, a devotee now. He could have been initiated by Srila Prabhupada, actually. And then you look at him, he's just some old man who's dying. He's a vegan. He eats raw food, and that's like his thing in life now. And now, that's his glory. He'll take it to his grave. And he missed his chance. So yeah, it's too late. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.